A long time ago, in a place between the stars and knowledge, a man named George Land worked at NASA. George was a creative and curious scientist whose job was to select geniuses who could shape the future of space exploration. He, along with his team, had designed an experiment that could measure the creativity and innovation of individuals. This highly advanced tool was used to identify brilliant minds at NASA. One day, George started to think deeply. He asked himself, "We are always looking for creative geniuses among scientists, but what if creativity is something we all have as children, and we just lose it as we grow up?" With this big question in mind, George decided to conduct his experiment on children. He approached 1,600 kids between the ages of 3 and 5. These children, full of energy and excitement, took part in George's creative tests. The results were astonishing. 98% of these children were considered creative geniuses. George excitedly reported these findings to NASA, saying, "Our children are full of creativity. We just need to find a way to keep that creativity alive." But George didn't stop there. 5 years later, when the children turned 10, he repeated the experiment. This time, the results were sad. Only 30% of the children showed the same level of creativity. With even more questions in his mind, George waited for the children to turn 15 and repeated the test again. This time, only 12% of the children still had that extraordinary creativity. Years went by, and the children grew into adults. George conducted his final experiment on them. With a heavy heart, he saw that only 2% of them had retained their childhood creativity. At NASA, George shared his findings with his colleagues and said, "As children, we are full of creativity, but our educational and social systems are designed in ways that take this creativity away. We need to find a way to keep that spark alive." This research at NASA marked the beginning of a new project. George and his team decided to create programs that would preserve creativity from childhood into adulthood. They visited schools, worked with teachers, and encouraged parents to let their children think freely and dream big. And so, the findings of one scientist at NASA became an inspiration not only for space exploration but also for exploring the creative minds of future generations.